Coming to you live from Denver, Colorado, the Mile High City. Welcome to the Sports Wagering Zone. I'm Chris Pardo. We're coming to you live on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as podcasting on most of your major podcast platforms such as Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Google Podcasts. We're on most of those as well. So thank you very much for listening. We have a lot to talk about today. Now that the NFL season is starting to loom in the near future, we got preseason games coming up. So we're going to take a look at some preseason games, take a look at the preseason schedule, the early schedule, kind of give you an idea as to some of the games, how the lines are going, kind of give you some thoughts and ideas on those games as well. But of course, baseball, it's still king. So we're going to be talking about three baseball games on tap for today. Going to take a look and see how the pros are looking at it, how the line movement is moving. We got the Cardinals and the Pirates, the Reds against the Braves, the Rockies against the Giants. Those are the games that we're going to be taking a closer look at today as we go. We're going to let you know which direction the pros are going in those games. And of course, we're going to cover some of the as far as the winning and losing streaks. Got some of that information coming your way as well. So let's first take a look at what happened yesterday as far as betting is concerned on Major League Baseball. The favorites, oh wow. I'll tell you, like I said yesterday, if you're betting favorites right now, you're doing very, very well. They went 12-2 yesterday. They're at almost 77% over the last 8 days. The only upsets yesterday were by the Marlins at a plus 143 against the Padres. You had the Twins at a plus 132 on the money line against the White Sox. And of course, the favorites, they lead for the entire season as well at 59.2%. Good numbers there if you're betting the favorites. Being a contrarian during this time period right now is really not kind of the way to go. You kind of sit back and relax and maybe look at something else to wager during these time periods. Meanwhile, the unders went 8-4-2 yesterday. You had a push on the Dodgers Philadelphia game at 10 and the Milwaukee Chicago Cubs game at 10. And just as a reminder, whenever we give you numbers, lines, pushes, or whatever, we're talking Las Vegas lines as well. Now, the over still leads, so they're at 50.4% as far as their win percentage is concerned. But 76.4%, that's one heck of a high, absolutely phenomenal, unbelievable number in the past 8 days as far as the win percentage is concerned. But that's the story for yesterday. Now, today is today. And like I said, we have three games we're going to take a look at. We're going to look at some of the swagger theory situations as well as looking at the winning and losing streak. So we're going to look at that. We're going to take our break. We take 3 breaks in this show, as we always tell you. Each one is of about a 1-minute duration. So if that's the case, we will be back looking at the games when we come back. Thanks for listening. Back in 1 minute. And welcome back. Here we are. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you very much for listening. Coming to you live on the I 95 Sports and Entertainment Network, podcasting on most of your major podcast platforms such as Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, you name it, we're there as well. So we got a couple of games to look at today as far as line movement is concerned and which direction the pros are going. First of all, around 5 o'clock Eastern Time, you got the Cincinnati Reds against the Atlanta Braves. The Reds are 61 and 54. The Braves are 59 and 55. The Braves, they've taken the first two games of this series. They won that opening game 3-2. In that game, they were minus 115 home favorites. And they won again last night, 8-6 as minus 125 home favorites. Now, of course, red hot Atlanta, they've now won three straight, and they've won seven of their last eight games. The Braves are now tied for first place with the National League East with the Phillies because they lost yesterday to the Dodgers. They were temporarily in first place. They bumped the Mets out. Then they went out to the coast to play the Dodgers, which are really a strong team out in the Western situation. So right now, there's a tie. You got the Braves and the Phillies tied for first place. Phillies are still playing LA. Braves are playing Cincinnati. Now, in this early evening game, because it's 5:30 Eastern time, Cincinnati comes in with their right-hander, Vladimir Gutierrez. He's 7-3, 4.15 ERA. And Atlanta comes back with their lefty, Kyle Muller. He's 2-3 with a 2.88 ERA. Now, as we look at the line in this game, it opened with the Braves listed as a minus 135 home favorite. The Reds were a plus 125 as a road dog. Now, the public, as they look at this game, they see, again, two pretty evenly matched teams. And they say, well, tell you what, if they're so evenly matched, let me go on the plus side. Let me be the contrarian in this game. They're going to take the plus money with the Reds to avoid the sweep. But the pros, they're back in those surging Braves. There's no doubt about it. They steamed up Atlanta from being a minus 135 to a minus 145. Now, something to keep in mind as you think about this, non-division home favorites, they're at almost 62% this season, winning roughly 18 units. You'd be up ahead 18 units had you just bet teams in that category. Now, home favorites are coming off a win. They're at almost 61%. Atlanta is 39 and 35 as a favorite. The Reds, well, as a dog, they're only 23 and 28. Atlanta has a plus 68 in run differential. Cincinnati plus 13. So the total opened pretty high, 10.5. That's really high. And the pros seem to be leaning to the under in this game. The total is now 10.5, with the under being juiced to minus 120, which means that total will probably drop down to 10. So looking at this game between the Reds and the Braves, it's two pretty well evenly matched teams, but the Braves are hot as can be. They've won the first two games of the series, and they are the choice of the pros. The general public, they're kind of sitting down and probably going on the Reds again because they're on the plus side. They got a real good shot at winning the game, so why not stay on the plus side instead of going with the favorite in this game? And the last game we're looking at is about 9:30, 9:45. You got the Colorado Rockies out in San Francisco playing the Giants. Rockies are 51 and 63. Giants are 73 and 41. Now, these are National League Western teams. And as you look at the totals, 51-63, 73-41, you could see that they're going in opposite directions. The Rockies are 22 games out of first place in the division, and they're 14 games out of a second wild card spot. So they're kind of out of it. Meanwhile, the Giants have the best record in baseball. They're plus 400 to win the National League, and then a plus 900 to win the World Series. So you might want to take a look at that. If they're still in that plus column, you might be able to pick them up and possibly, pick up some cash along the way as well if you don't care about betting on the games themselves individually. Now, tonight's opener, Colorado starts their right-hander, German Marquez. He's 10-8 with a 3.42 ERA. The Giants, they come back with their right-hander, Logan Webb. He's 5-3 with a 3.19 ERA. Now, as we look at the line on this game, it opened with the Giants a minus 154 heavy home favorite. The Rockies are plus 144 road dog. Now, the pro money, of course, they're going to be on the Giants, and they steamed that Giants team up from being a minus 154 up to minus 170. Now, keep this in mind also. Teams that get a 15 cents of steam or more are at almost 60% this season. Now, home favorites are at almost 61%. Now, San Francisco also has value because they're a big favorite with a low total. The total of this game is 7.5, by the way. The fewer expected runs scored, the more likely that they're going to come from the team that's better, this case being the Giants. The Giants are 44-22 as favorites, including 29-10 when they're playing at home. At home, they're almost at 75%. The Rockies are 31-55 as a dog. San Francisco, 37-17 at home this season. Colorado is an abysmal 13-42 on the road. The Giants are 6-3 against the Rockies so far this season in games that they've played against each other. So in this game, the pros, as usual, on the favorite in this one, the San Francisco Giants over the Colorado Rockies. In the first game we talked about, the Braves and the Reds. General public is on the Reds. The pros are on the Atlanta Braves in that situation. So that's our roundup for games for today. We only have two. We actually had one earlier in the day between St. Louis and Pittsburgh. And of course, the pros are on St. Louis. That game is, pretty well underway. So I didn't want to really talk about it, but it would have been the Cardinals would have been the choice for the pros in that particular game. It's going to be part of our record when we talk about it tomorrow. Now, yesterday we had three plays. We had the Tigers against Baltimore. We had the Tigers in that game, so that's a winner. We had Oakland against Cleveland, and we had the Braves against the Reds. So yesterday we had three plays. We had three winners. The day before that, we had two plays, one loss and one winner because we had a postponement in there as well. So right now, in this month of August, we've had 30 plays so far. Just following the pros, 30 plays. Out of those 30 plays, you had 21 wins. That's 70%, a phenomenal number for the pros to be at, because they're normally in that 59, 60, 61, 62% area. So being up there about 70% and being on a lot of favorites, as you know, the favorites have been doing exceptionally well. Get an idea as to how things are going. In the meantime, we were talking about the winning and losing streaks story we've been talking about and taking a look at it, trying to keep a close eye on them. Yesterday, we had a game that came under what is called the swagger theory, which basically says a team on a winning streak that finally loses a game generally comes back and loses the second game as well. And in this game between Philadelphia and the Dodgers, that's just the way it worked out. Philadelphia was definitely coming off of a loss after having an 8-game winning streak. So the swagger theory came into play there. Philadelphia was the play. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh also lost again. So they're now on a 7-game losing streak, and they play the Cardinals once again today. Baltimore and Detroit, that was another winning-losing situation with Baltimore losing. They're now 7 games. They're on a 7-game losing streak. The Cubs, who are playing Milwaukee today, are on a 7-game losing streak as well. So if you're looking at playing winning and losing streaks, you got Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and the Cubs all at the 7 mark. They have lost 7 straight games so far. Yesterday, you had Philadelphia as a swagger theory choice, and it actually did come in. So just got to keep you up to date on that. Whether you want to play them or not. I hope you kind of appreciate what we're trying to do here for you. But if it's something that's kind of bores you, you don't care about, you know what? Send us an email if we get enough emails. Because I get a lot of emails saying they like this and they want to hear more about it. They want us to keep a record of it and keep you informed. However, if you don't feel that way, you know, let your voice be heard. Send us an email. Send it to the sportswageringzone at gmail.com and say, spend less time on that particular subject. Spend more time on something else, okay? Especially football, because football is right around the corner. So let's get that second break out of the way. And like I said, we take 3 breaks within the show. Each one is of a minute duration. When we do come back, we're going to take a look at some preseason games, take a look at the lines on them. So this way we can kind of track them and follow them along and kind of get an idea as to how well they're doing. So let's take a break right now, and we'll be back right after this message in 1 minute. And welcome back. Here we go again. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you very much for listening. Totally appreciate you listening to the show. We're going live on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, and we're also podcasting on most of your major podcast platforms, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and many, many more as well. So we talked about the 2 baseball games on tap for today, in case you happen to miss it before you maybe just started tuning in now. We have Oakland against Cleveland. And no, I'm sorry. We have, that was yesterday. I'm looking at the wrong list. I got so many lists here, you spin your head around if you could see them. Okay, we got the Reds against the Braves. We have the Braves in that game against the Reds, and the Rockies against the Giants. And in this game, the Giants are the choice of the pros. The pros' choice are the Braves and the Giants. Only 2 games today. 1 game has already started, the Cardinals and the Pirates, and the pros were on the Cardinals in that game. But in the meantime, pro football is getting ready to get started. The entire scope of NFL betting changes from when you're betting preseason to regular season. It's totally different, okay? But it doesn't mean that there aren't some opportunities in betting on preseason games. In fact, I know quite a few professional bettors who they believe the chance of winning preseason games is easier than the games that play during the season. Of course, I know other people that just hate playing exhibition games. So it's kind of a mixed batch. Not as many, I don't think there's that many that really like to play the preseason. They just get a few that do, and I know them, and they do very, very well. But the one thing you have to understand is because COVID-19 with COVID-19, we had no 2020 season. The big change since 2019 is that the preseason consists of only 3 weeks. That's it. Not 4 weeks, just three. So don't overlook the importance of this and how it might change the way coaches approach these games. Because with a 4 game schedule, coaches typically build up their starters' time each of the first 3 games, what it and finally ends up as a so-called dress rehearsal in week 3. Okay, the final week was always for evaluating the lower end talent for any final cuts they want to make, and the main players usually don't even see the field except from the sideline. Now, with a 3 game slate, though, will the dress rehearsal be pushed up to game 2? That's the question. Will the starters play at all in that final third game? These are important things you have to think about. And of course, we'll have the answers to them in a few weeks. Perhaps, the single most important concept that you want to understand is that some coaches use these games so that they can establish momentum or a winning culture in the team. Some coaches kind of approach it from that perspective. Others say they could care less. They just go out there, they can look at players, see who they want to keep, who they want to get rid of. For instance, look at the Ravens. John Harbaugh, he's easily been the league's best preseason team coach as they own a spectacular, unbelievable 18-3 record going as far back as 2015. John Harbaugh might not be a bad bet to look at this season as well. Now, Mike Zimmer's Vikings have also been pretty good. But on the other side, Dan Quinn of the Falcons, who just became known for essentially tanking the preseason in favor of keeping the players healthy. That's his thinking, okay? So we'll see if that changes in the first season under Arthur Smith, who's in Atlanta now. Now, the other important factor, it typically has a large impact on closing odds, is whether there's a starting quarterback that's going to play in that particular game. Now, if you're looking at a price, if it looks off to you, okay, kind of it falls outside of that +3, -3 line range, it's a good bet that one of the quarterbacks is not suiting up at all. So that's just some thoughts and ideas on various ways of looking at it. Some of the pros love the preseason, most of them don't. Okay. But again, the things we talked about, the coaches and their habits, that's the way they've been before. But don't forget, we're not playing 4 games this season. Preseason. We're only playing 3. So we're going to take a look at a few games. We're going to look at the first game, which is on Thursday, August the 12th. You can have Washington against New England, and you can have Pittsburgh against Philadelphia. So let's take our final break. And when we come back, we'll go over some games that are going to be coming up soon, kind of give you an idea how the lines are on those games, and we'll kind of take it from there. We'll kind of be going back and forth with it. So let's take a final break. Let's get it out of the way, and let's start talking some more football. You'll be back into the sports wagering zone in just 1 minute. And welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thanks for listening. We're coming to you from Denver, Colorado, the mile high city right here in Denver. Anyway, thanks for listening. We're talking on some podcast platforms. We're on Apple and we're also on Spotify and also on iHeartRadio, go on and on. I just don't want to bore you with all that information you don't need to know. Okay, good enough. Let's look at some games that are coming up in the preseason. We gave you a couple of tips to look at if you're thinking about preseason games. Take a look at the coaches and what they did before. That could be very important. Also, take a look at the line. If the line is either in that what we call the sweet spot of -3, +3, if it's out of that area, okay, then you know there's something going on. It may be a quarterback that's going to play, maybe a star running back who's finally going to play a game. It could be something of that nature. Primarily means quarterbacks, if it moves much in any direction. If it's kind of in that -3, +3, you can probably be sure that the starting quarterback is going to be sitting on the sideline watching. So let's take a look at a couple of games. First of all, Thursday, August the 12th, that's going to be the start of everything, because we actually had the start with the Cowboys and the Steelers in the Hall of Fame game. But these are the games that are following. Thursday, August the 12th, that's the first one. Washington at -2 in this game, and the over-under in this game is 36 points, and they're in New England. Now, it opened with Washington as a 2-point favorite 2 weeks ago, and it really hasn't moved. It's been the same all throughout. Reports say that Washington will be focused on quarterback play. They can have Ryan Fitzpatrick getting time to execute the offensive plays. Now, I don't necessarily trust what coaches say in the preseason, so be aware of that. But I do trust the pros. The pros haven't been betting the Patriots. Even as a home dog, they're not betting them. They did bet the over from the opener of 32 all the way up to 36. So if you look at it from that perspective, essentially, the smart money is betting on Washington's quarterbacks with the over rather than laying the 2 points on the road with New England. So that kind of tells you something. Then Pittsburgh is against Philadelphia. Right now, Pittsburgh is a pick 'em. The over under the total is 35. The Eagles opened as a 1-point favorite. The first bet was on the Eagles, so they went to 1.5. Now, since then, it's been all Steelers. Though Ben Roethlisberger's not going to play, doesn't look like it, all three remaining Steelers quarterbacks, Mason Rudolph, Dwayne Haskins, Josh Dobbs, they've all played in the NFL, and all three of them got a chance to dust off some of that rustiness when they played the Cowboys last week. So it looks like the pros will take any points they can get with the Steelers, but stop betting at the pick'em point, which is where it's at right now. The total opened at 33.5, was bet up to 35. So if you're looking at this game, the pros are kind of staying away from it right now. Friday, August the 13th, the next day, Tennessee is now a pick 'em, with 38 being the total, playing in Atlanta. The Titans were a 1-point favorite on the opener. They took some play and some significant play on the dog from a respected bettor, which was enough to drop it down to a pick 'em. Now, the total opened at 38. It hasn't moved. The pros who like overs bet early. That is in advance of the over-loving public who's that definitely go over. Sharps who like unders usually wait to see if they might see something better. I expect we'll see sharp underplay at 38.5 or higher, and maybe even as it is at 38 just before kickoff time. If that's as high as it goes, they're probably going to go on the under in this game. That's how we see that. Buffalo's at Detroit that day. Buffalo at Detroit. Detroit is a 1 point favorite right now, with 37 being the total. This one moved significantly. It opened with Buffalo being a 2 point favorite, but the favorite has flipped after a lot of play that's been coming in on Detroit. A lot of preseason bettors like to take rookie coaches, okay, that are head coaches, that are rookies who may be trying to establish a winning culture with the team. Detroit's new coach, Dan Campbell, fits into that category. The totals went up from 36.5 to 37, even though Josh Allen won't be playing for Buffalo. Now, you might take 37.5 or 38 to bring in the buyback on the under. So if it goes up to 37.5 or 38, you might want to get in on the under in that particular game. And finally, on that same day, you got Dallas against Arizona, with Arizona being a 1.5 point favorite right now, and 39.5 being the total. There's a two-way action here. It opened with the Cardinals being a 2 point favorite. Now, the first bet, the first monies that were coming in came in on Dallas at +2. The line moved down to Arizona at -1 as a 1 point favorite, and they got bet back on the Cardinals. So pretty decent businesses. Both teams have followings in Nevada, and of course, these numbers are out of Nevada. Keep that in mind. Now, a sharp bet under the total of 40 is the way it looks. The total dropped to 39.5. Okay, and if the pros are betting an under, is probably a little too high. So it looks like the under is where the pros are going in this game between Dallas and Arizona. And finally, on Saturday, August the 14th, well, we got a few games there on tap. We're kind of running out of time, so we'll cover those tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're going to cover the games for Saturday, August 14th. We got quite a while, few days to go here now, so we'll cover that tomorrow. So the games we looked at today are very, very simple. Today, you got Washington against New England. You got Pittsburgh against Philadelphia. The last look, Washington was a 2 point favorite. The pros seem to be looking at Washington in this game. Pittsburgh against Philadelphia, it's a pick 'em, and the pros in this particular game are looking at Pittsburgh as well. So those are the two games for today. We got a couple of games tomorrow, and we'll talk about the games coming up on Saturday as well. So that's the story as far as the NFL preseason is concerned. Two baseball games we talked about earlier. You got the Reds against the Braves, and the pros like the Braves in that game. Rockies against the Giants, and the pros like the Giants in that particular game. So that's the story for today. It's Thursday. I hope you're having a really pleasant Thursday so far. And if you're going to be doing any betting tonight, whether you're betting on the preseason games or if you're betting on the baseball games, I certainly hope you have a very profitable Thursday as well. So thank you again very much for listening. We'll be back again tomorrow. I-95, the Sports Wagering Network, as we call it. And we're also going to be podcasting on most of your major podcast platforms. We're here at 1 o'clock Eastern Time every Monday through Friday. Saturday and Sunday, we're here at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So once again, have a very pleasant Thursday. Enjoy the football games tonight. Couple of baseball games, some big action coming in baseball right now, especially with the Giants and the Braves. Now that the Braves and the Phillies are tied, there's going to be a lot of action going back and forth. Maybe some good opportunities for you if you like to bet baseball. Anyway, that's the story for today. And like I said, we'll be back again tomorrow, Friday, right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as most of those podcast platforms we talked about, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Until then, have a pleasant Thursday. And of course, if you're betting, I hope you have a profitable one as well. Goodbye, everybody.